some of you, it's almost like you're human, you know? Almost. We're getting there, yeah.
Well, sometimes isn't it like good to lie to yourself? Like what I mean is like, let's say you want to you're kind of scared to do something that you've never done, but that could also come with your changing your mentality. Oh, I mean, if you think you can do it, but you're also lying to yourself, you're like, I could do it. Like I know I can, but you deep inside of you, you know you can't. But don't you think it's kind of good also that you know you can't do it, but you're still thinking, oh, how am I going to be able to do it? Because I feel like that changes your actions and the way you play it off. Something that
I get what you're saying. It would be better if you told yourself the truth and did it anyway. Yeah, a brave person is a coward who moves forward anyway. Think of fear like if I move those baskets and I waited by the door, and then somebody came in, and as they opened the door, I went, ah! And they jumped. I didn't scare them. I startled them. It's a difference. You know, I don't know who the UFC heavyweight champion is. I don't know who it is. Let's say he was coming through the door, and I jumped out at him and startled him. Would I sit there and go, he's afraid of me? No, I startled him. That's all it is. That's all it is. But sometimes there's a fear that can be inside you because fear reflects a number of things. So fear reflects your awareness of consequences. If you really believe that, like if I don't know, I'm trying to think of something less dramatic than D-Day, but let's D-Day when they're storming the beaches, and I'm thinking about that because I remember a quote from a man who was asked how it felt to be a hero. Long story. He was at D-Day and he said, "I wasn't a hero. I was a coward who kept moving forward." That's where I get the idea from. And if you told that guy, if that guy was on the boat and he thought, hey, this is like a video game. In other words, if I die, I'm just going to respawn. And he goes charging up the beach, would we look at him and go, that man's brave? No, we would say, that man's under a delusion. He's not living in the real world. He's living according to the rules of something completely different. He's not brave. If that guy sits there and you look at him and he's got pee coming down his leg, and he's like, I just might be dying here today. And he can count down in his head 59, 58, 57, 56, and he can realize he may have less than a minute of life left in him, and yet he marches forward anyway. There's some courage there. And again, that's different from being rash. Oh, there are 9 machine guns trained on this door that once it opens up, they're going to kill you. Whatever. That's rashness. In other words, you're not acknowledging the consequences. To be aware of the consequences and push forward anyway. That's bravery. That's bravery. And so we should be aware of the consequences because, by the way, that's also going to cost us something. And when something costs us, we appreciate it. If you know that this thing could take you out and you move forward anyway, my goodness, you appreciate it. And that's something to be admired. And by the way, that means that person can come back and tutor the rest of us, teach the rest of us, and it gives us something to aspire to. I mean, if the person is delusional and believes that they're inside of a video game rather than on the actual D-Day, what can you learn from that person? Not to take drugs, I guess? But you can't learn character from that person. And that means the person can't be a hero, because a big part of what it is to be a hero is to be able to go out, overcome something, that's important, and also to come back and tell you about it. Overcoming is not just winning. It usually is. But it's also overcoming all of those things inside of you. Fear, doubt, guilt, self-esteem. To be able to look at all those things and say, yeah, I'm going anyway. But how do you do that? You put your head down and you go. You look at, you can see it. You can watch, I just mentioned the UFC heavyweight champion. Any of you guys watch MMA? You guys watch the UFC? You ever watch it? Watch sometime when they get into the ring, when they're making the announcements, and look at the person's face when the camera's going around them. I would suggest to you that if you really study their face, 75% of the time, you know who's going to win that fight based off of the things that you can see, but maybe you can't explain. In other words, when you go in there, they're both scared. Whether anybody who says they get in the ring and they're not scared, they're lying to you. Or they're psychotic. Because
Mike Tyson.
Tyson? Tyson said he was scared too. So that's the thing that drove him to train, because I mean, because he's expected to knock somebody out in 60 seconds. And his thing was, what if I ever lost? But that's what motivated him to train so much. It's like Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali said he hated every single minute of training. But that's why when he got into press conferences, he ran his mouth so much. Because he knew that if he ran his mouth so much, that would force him to go in the gym and have to train a whole bunch. Because he couldn't stand to lose. Because after talking so much shit, you better not lose. So that's because he hated training so much, he had to have an external motivation like that. You know, Tyson's thing was he didn't want to ever have to go back to what he grew up in. That was his thing. It was the fear of having to go back. It was the fear of, and by the way, it was also the fear of failing his trainer, Customato. He was afraid of letting him down. Customato was Tyson's trainer. He met Mike Tyson. He was like 15 years old, and he was a dropout already. He was a criminal record. He was a hoodlum, and he met Cuss, this frail old white guy who had this like weird style of boxing, and he saw something in Tyson, and Tyson saw something in him, and Customato ended up adopting him, brought him into his house. 15-year-old kid, dropout, criminal record. Customato said, everyone deserves another chance. Come on. Dropped everything, brought him into his house with his family, and gave him another chance. Tyson did not want to let that guy down. And Tyson was undefeated until Cuss died. When Cuss was no longer around and that was no longer his motivation, that's when he lost to Buster Douglas. So sometimes that's the fear that keeps you going. It's a fear of loss. It's a fear of looking bad in front of the people who admire you. It's a fear of letting yourself down, letting people down. And you'll find that if you really look at when you lost something or you failed something, it'd be interesting to look at and figure out what is it that bothers me so much about it. Yeah, it's embarrassing, but is it also because you let people down? Is it also because you let yourself down? Is it because, like one of my students was in a tournament a few weeks ago, a couple months ago now, and I wasn't there for it. Long story, but one of my other coaches went and cornered him, and he lost. And I sent him a message afterwards and just said, "Hey, bro, I heard you were in there. You fought today. Way to be out there." And he wrote back a message, very apologetic, and he said he says, "I'm just embarrassed I lost." I'm like, "Dude, embarrassed for who? You got out there. You wore our insignia. You competed well. You didn't give up. You fought hard. You trained for it. You win some and you learn some. You get back out there and you learn something, and next time you'll do it again. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. 90% of the people who do this stuff never get out there to actually fight and compete and put it all on the line. You have the courage to do that." And he's telling me, I was scared the whole time. Of course you were. So was the other person. But you have to push past that. You have to overcome that. Otherwise, the only place you're ever, because where is fear going to keep you except at home? And if the meaning and the purpose of your life was at your house, you would have found it already. Because I'm sure you've explored your house, right? Yeah, do that. If you haven't, go home today. Move all the furniture and look for your purpose. Look for your meaning in life. It's not here. If it's not here, guess where it must be? Somewhere out there. Somewhere beyond the explored world. That's what it is to be heroic. To move past the explored world. Courageously. Knowing that there are monsters out there. You ever see those old maps and they have like the oceans and it shows like sea monsters and dragons out there? If you're if not, I'll bring up a map. That essentially is like them saying like, oh, but that exactly what it says. There are sea monsters out there that will sink your ship. What was sinking their ships? Probably rogue waves. Who knows? Bad things are out there. But what do? You go out there anyway. What's out there? Don't know. Haven't been there. I mean, really think about it. We started in Africa. And we were around for quite a while, like 100,000 years, living just fine south of the Sahara. And all of a sudden there was one dude who's like, "What's out there?" And they're like, "Nothing." How do you know? Well, no one's ever been there. And so he grabs a canteen of water. He's like, "Well, I'm going to go." And he walks out there, and he probably dies. Because he's the first one to ever do it. He probably didn't respect the consequences of it. Somebody else probably looked out there and was like, "I can't even see the end of this desert. I'm going to take a whole bunch of water." He's afraid, but he's going anyway, but he's also respecting the consequences of it. And so respecting the consequences helps him be successful. Now he's not going to be as vulnerable to them. And then you fast forward, and here we are, all this time later. There was one dude, one girl, somebody just said "I'm going for this," and they went anyway while they were afraid. And that's so much of life. Because the thing is, you're going to face life anyway. You guys are going to be out of here soon. And you're going out into the real world, whatever that means. Whether you want to or not. Some of you are being forced out there if you haven't already. Any of you guys have parents that are going to Spartan kick you out the door once you're done here? Once you turn 18, they're just going to kick you out. Some of you, by the way, are going to be 28, and your parents are going to be pulling you back inside the house as hard as you're trying to leave. They're going to force you to come back inside because they don't want you to leave. And some of you will be kind of in that middle ground. But I promise you that the meaning and the purpose of your life is probably not inside your house. Otherwise, you would have found it already. That's why, like in the morning, when you're, especially now, right? It's all cold outside, but it's so warm inside your bed. And my alarm goes off every morning at 5:35. And as soon as my alarm goes off, the blanket monsters attack me. You all know what the blanket monsters are. Those are the blankets that hold you down as hard as you're trying to fight. They just hold you down. And then I have 2 other ginger blanket monsters that then come in as soon as the alarm goes off. One's named Theodore, the other one's named Bonnie. And they come in, my cats, and they start to nuzzle, and they get close, and they start to burrow in. And they're so cute, and I'm so warm. And we don't have to be here till 8:30 anyway. I've got 3 hours. Why am I in such a rush? Well, I'm in such a rush because as a human being, I have to do what my nature demands. What my nature demands is not in that bed. It's out here in the world. Your meaning and your purpose is probably not in your bed. Wouldn't it be great if it was, though? We'd all have meaningful lives. But it's out there. It's in the unexplored areas. And the things I can promise you, the things that you most need to find in life, you're going to find them in the places that you least want to look. But you look anyway. You respect the consequences of it, but you look anyway. And that's courageous. Others? Happy Friday, huh? Well, there is good news. I'm just kidding.
Oh, hell.